This is your one and only 𝐹irespark81 with your daily dose of video goodness, and welcome back to another exciting Valheim video. Today we're taking a look at the Demolisher versus the Staff of Embers. Let's get to it. So why the Demolisher versus the Staff of Embers? Well, in the past couple of videos I've put out about anything weapons wise, I've had multiple people in my comments section saying all you need is the Demolisher. Demolisher, Demolisher, Demolisher. And seeing as how in one of my most recent videos we established that magic is completely OP, and the Staff of Embers being our best magic offensive weapon, I figured why not compete the two against each other to see which one is actually better. So I put these two against each other in a variety of different tests, and the first one we're going to talk about is how many hits it takes to kill each of the Seeker units at each individual level. So we start this test off taking a look at the Staff versus just your basic winged Seeker. For a level 1, which is no stars, it takes 2 hits to kill one with the Staff of Embers. It takes 4 hits to kill one with the hammer. For a level 2 Seeker, which is a 1-star Seeker, it takes 4 hits to kill them with a staff and 8 hits to kill one with the hammer. For a level 3 Seeker, which is a 2-star Seeker, it takes 6 hits to kill it with the staff and 14 hits to kill it with the hammer. Now note that I was allowing the maximum amount of damage that each hit with the staff can do, so I was allowing it to burn for its full amount of damage. I could just spam hits and kill it quicker, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to see if we allowed it to do its full amount of damage, how many hits it would take. Next up, we have the Seeker Soldier, which in-game in the console is referred to as the Brute. So when you see this breakdown I'm going to show you here in a minute, you see Brute, that is what it's referring to, is the Soldier. I only did the Brutes level 1 and 2 because level 3 is just insane. You don't run into them very often, and they are essentially a mini boss, so I didn't feel they were really worth testing because they are kind of like a mini boss. They have so much HP. So we only did the Soldier level 1, which is no stars, and level 2, which is a 1-star. So a basic Brute, your level 1 Brute, took 13 hits to kill it with the staff and 22 hits to bring it down with the hammer. A 1-star Brute takes 28 hits to kill it with the staff and 40 hits to kill it with the hammer. Now, one thing I do want to note here is that with the hammer, I was getting yellow numbers to show up. So I was able to actually hit it in specific areas at specific points in time to get those yellow numbers to show up, which means I was hitting it in its weak spot. Now, I did try to get behind it and just straight hit its butt with the hammer, but I could not always get the yellow numbers to show up when I did that. As where with the staff, pretty much no matter what I did, I could not get those yellow numbers to show up. I was only able to hit its weak spot one time, and I feel like that was kind of a fluke because every other time I tested this on both levels, level 1 and level 2, I only got that yellow damage to show up one time. And it looks like if you position yourself to the front left or the front right of a Brute and swing the hammer, you have a really good chance of hitting it in its weak spot. For some reason, a direct butt attack with the Demolisher doesn't really work as well. Moving on to the ticks were even across the board, so it takes 1 hit with either weapon for a no star or a 1-star tick, and a 2-star tick takes 2 hits with either of them. Now, I do want to note here that the staff has a very clear advantage when it comes to fighting over the hammer, and that is the staff can fight y'all and the hammer cannot. Now, I did not put these two against each other in a lineup to see how many attacks it would take to bring down a y'all with each of them because the hammer just basically can't, at least not under normal circumstances, as where you can with the staff, so the staff gets a clear just across the board win when it comes to fighting y'all. And the staff actually wins across the board with every one of these units except for ticks where they broke even because the staff just does more damage. Why neither of these were able to take down a 2-star tick in less than 2 hits, I'm not sure, but they just couldn't. They would get it almost there, but you needed that second hit in order to kill it, and they were both able to accomplish it in 2 hits. However, against a level 1, which is a basic Brute, and a level 2, which is a 1-star Brute, and any level of Seeker, the staff is always going to be able to kill them in less hits because the staff deals more damage. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, the staff does more damage, so clearly it's the winner here and is the better weapon because it can kill things in less hits. Well, hold up there, Timmy. Don't jump down there in the comments just yet, because there is a lot more to it than that. Let's take a look at the stats of each weapon and compare them and assign a point to each one that has a better stat. So if we take a look at this chart, you can see in the weight category, the staff wins at 0.3 weight, where the hammer has 4. It also wins in the durability category because it has 250 durability and the hammer only has 150. However, if we look at blunt damage, the hammer does more blunt damage at level 35, which is the numbers that I'm showing you here. It also does more max blunt damage at 151 if you manage to max out your club skill, as where the staff's max blunt damage is only 120. However, in all of my testing, I had my skills set to 35. So the actual damage numbers that we're looking at here are at 35. So the hammer wins in blunt damage. However, it doesn't do any fire damage, so the staff takes it in that category. Moving on to the overall use of a physical attribute, so stamina or ꞓ╤, the hammer takes it only using 28 stamina, where the staff uses 35 ꞓ╤. Looking at block armor and block force, the hammer takes it in both of those. It has 61 block armor and 60 block force, where the staff has 56 block armor and 25 block force. The stats for parry bonus are a wash, as they are both at ×2. However, the hammer takes it in the knockback category, coming in at 210. The staff is only at 100. And move speed, the staff takes it at only -5%. The hammer just is terrible at -20% to your move speed. When you have this thing out, that is brutal. The staff has no backstab, which is a huge detriment to the staff. However, the hammer has ×2 backstab. And if we take a look at attack time, the staff comes in at 0.5 seconds, where the hammer is at 1 second. So that gives us 5 points for the staff and 6 points awarded to the hammer. Let's quickly talk about that attack time here. So in order to get their attack time, I went into the game and I slowed time by 50%, so it was half speed, and I attacked with each of these weapons. That allowed me to dial down to the exact frame really easy in which they begin to swing, or in which their physical attribute is reduced from the character. So I guess that's how you would call that, the physical attribute, or your physical resource that you use to use these things, so stamina or ꞓ╤, at the point at which that shows up on the screen as being reduced. That is when I started the frame count and I ended the frame count at which they made connection with something, or the fireball in this case was released. Because at that point, if something is directly in front of you, it would hit that thing and it would be the same as slapping down with the hammer. So at this point, our frame count is actually doubled, so we have to half that, and if we half that, we get a ½ second and a whole second for our attacks. And we could also do this in order to figure out their DPS. So we're going to use the low end for our DPS values, and for the staff, we are not going to count the fire damage because that burns over time. For the staff's actual DPS, we would only count the staff's blunt damage. Calculating its damage over time is a whole other animal that I don't even know how to calculate, to be honest with you. But their blunt damage DPS is very easy. The hammer's on its low end is 70. The staff is 110. If you want to take into account the high damage, the hammer's high damage at level 35 in blunt would be 116 damage per second. The staff's DPS on the high end would be 182. So just in raw DPS, the staff is going to win out, and that's not even counting the fire damage that it does. Next, let's take a quick look at their AoE. So the hammer does a much more consistent and larger AoE than the staff, and I was able to figure this out relatively easily. I just placed down a bunch of wood floor and then attacked it with the staff and then attacked it with the hammer, and you can get a pretty clear idea of how big of an AoE that each of these have. I also noticed in this testing that the hammer's AoE is way more consistent than the staff. The fireball hits and it doesn't always do an even AoE. At some points it's a little to the left, at other points it's a little in front of it, and it's kind of strange the area that it does. However, I tried to get it as consistent as possible, and this was about as good as I can get. The hammer, on the other hand, was super easy. It was was consistent every time. I aimed for the center of my structure and it damaged the same floor pieces every single time. Last but not least, I want to talk about the pros and cons of each of these weapons. So first off, the staff pros. It attacks fast, it does more damage, it has less move speed restrictions, it has higher durability, it does mixed damage, which is an insane pro for the staff because something may be resistant to blunt, but it may not be resistant to fire. Anything that does mixed damage has a much better chance of doing more damage to more targets. And lastly, it is ranged, which is another big pro for the staff. Hammer has a lot of really good things going for it as well. It has a bigger AoE, it's less physically draining, meaning it takes less stamina than the staff takes 𝐈𝐸r. It uses stamina and not 𝐈𝐸r. And why is this a pro? Well, if you take a look at the screen, you can see here I did 2 different tests. Stamina actually regens faster than 𝐈𝐸r. Even if you are wearing the full mage set, stamina still regens faster than 𝐈𝐸r. So this is a big pro for the hammer. This means that the physical resource that you are using to swing this thing is going to be readily available more than the physical resource that you use to use the staff. It has a higher knockback, which is good because that's going to keep things away from you and technically could allow you to kite things easier. It has higher block force and block armor, meaning that you take less damage and can block higher amounts of damage and knock things back further when you are parrying. Now, I do want to note that I did do tests on both of these to see what they could parry, and they all have the capability to parry pretty much anything if you have enough HP to keep from being staggered. The downside here is the staff allows a lot more damage to get through than the hammer does because the hammer has that higher block armor. And lastly, the hammer has backstab and the staff doesn't. This means that if you're able to get a lot of backstab damage in, the hammer can do a lot more damage than the staff, but that's only if you're able to attack from the back. Staff cons: mana regens slowly. It's more physically draining because it uses more mana. It has a smaller AoE, less of a knockback, lower block force and armor, and no backstab. Hammer cons: hammer is slower to attack. The hammer makes you much slower when you are moving with it equipped. It has lower durability, does less damage in most cases. It only has a single damage type, and it has little range capabilities because it isn't ranged. Now, I say little ranged capabilities because it is a rather large AoE, so there is some range there. So you don't necessarily need to be up in something's face in order to damage it. You can actually keep a pretty safe distance from you and whatever you're attacking and still manage to deal damage to it. However, it does not have the range that the staff has. I would call the hammer more of a mid-range weapon, and the staff is a full long-ranged weapon. All right, well, I'm not going to tell you whether one of these is better than the other. I'm partial to the staff and will always be partial to anything that is ranged like the staff is. It fits my playstyle better, and that is why I will always choose it over the hammer. But hopefully with this video, I have given you enough info to decide on which one of these is the best for you and your specific playstyle. Which one do you think is better? And after seeing these comparisons, did I change your mind on one of them? Let me know down there in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this video, you found it helpful and informational, consider hitting the subscribe button and a notification bell so you can be notified when I upload other Valheim content. You can also find a link to some more Valheim content on the screen right now. I want to give an absolute massive shout out and thank you to all of my channel supporters for helping to keep these videos sponsor free. You all are absolutely amazing people. If you would like to become an official channel supporter, check out the links in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you're shy, you don't like to comment, just hit that thumbs up button and share your support. Until next time, thanks for watching.